Namaste, it's Sahara Rose, and welcome back to the Highest Self podcast, a place where we discuss what makes you your soul's highest evolvement. Ooh, love is in the air. I just love February because it's Valentine's month. I've loved Valentine's Day my whole entire life, even when I've been single. I mean, any excuse to celebrate love is something that I am all about. And as I spoke about with you guys on episode 50, about what's been going on in my life and all the craziness, I did end up finding an apartment. I manifested it super, super quick. I got really clear with what I wanted. I was looking for more outdoor space, but I also really wanted to stay near the ocean. If you haven't listened to episode 50 yet, definitely listen to that because it's a really good precursor to this episode. But basically what happened was my entire apartment had bed bugs in it. So did all my neighbors. All my neighbors are moving out. I had to move out. I'm in the process of it right now. And luckily I found a new place. My dilemma was, if I stayed near the ocean, I wasn't sure if I would still get access to like earth and the land. And I thought maybe that this is a sign that I need to be more grounded and closer to earth, because that's really a message that's been coming through. So luckily my new place is much closer to earth. I'm currently on a 16th floor of a building. I'm moving down to a 5th floor, and I'm just 5 blocks from the ocean. So I'm not right next to it, but I'm 5 blocks from it, so I can still walk there and take my walks there every day and get all the downloads that I share with you guys on my Instagram. But I'm still much more connected to earth, and there's trees around. So just the power of manifestation is so amazing when you know what you're looking for. There was a feeling in me that when the situation happened, universe is telling me you gotta go. There's bigger things awaiting you. And I feel like energetically I've just outgrown the space that I'm in. And it's really interesting. We talk about this in this podcast episode, but right now we're in between 2 eclipses. The first one happened like end of January, so I think it was like January 30th, I think was when that first one, the lunar eclipse, happened. And now we're moving into a solar eclipse on February 14th or 15th, and that's when I move into my new place. So kind of amazing how the universe set that up. So in between these 2 eclipses is our sort of transition time. But actually, as Danielle mentions in this episode, the eclipse energy, it's not like just on a specific day. It's something that continues for the next 6 months. So the next 6 months are going to be a huge time of transformation. So, I mean, before I just tell you the whole episode, let Danielle tell it because she says it much better than me. But before we get started, I just want to give a little shout out to our sponsor today, Four Sigmatic. If you haven't heard yet, they are the mushroom elixir company of your dreams. They make mushrooms cool again. They basically take healing medicinal mushrooms from reishi to chaga to cordyceps, which all have different properties. Some bring you up and give you a lot of energy. Others bring you down and make you really chill. They even fight candida. There's a huge thing. People think, oh, I can't eat mushrooms if I have candida. I interviewed the founder of it in episode 48, Taro, and he shares with us how it's actually chaga is one of the most anti-candida foods ever. So definitely listen to that episode, learn more about the mushrooms, and try them yourself. So Four Sigmatic is offering all Highest Self podcast listeners 15% off, which is super exciting. It ends up being cheaper than just a cup of coffee every day, and you're getting so many more healing benefits. So to get that, go on foursigmatic.com, FOURSIGMATIC.com/Sahara, SAHARA, and you will get 15% off your order. I personally love the reishi. I literally drink it every day. I just do hot water, put in the reishi, add a little bit of flax milk on top. It's perfect. Doesn't require any heating on the stove. It's super simple. My boyfriend loves the mushroom coffee one because it gives you that coffee taste and flavor, but it gives you natural energy with lion's mane, or they have a cordyceps one as well. So there's so many different ones to choose from. So definitely check it out and use our 15% off discount for sigmatic.com/Sahara. So now let's get into this episode. after I did episode 50, which kind of came as a download, definitely listen to that. But I just was really feeling like connected to what's going on from a global level and been wanting to know what's sort of happening in the cosmos. I mean, we're all feeling these shifts right now. And as I talk about, 2012 was a really big shifting year for all of us. Many of us woke up that year. It's the year that we quit our jobs or did huge breakups or sold all our things and moved to a van. I mean, people shared with me so many incredible stories, which I've been sharing on my Instagram story of what happened to them in 2012. And it's been so inspiring to see, wow, we are part of this massive, massive shift. So I always find it interesting to see how it relates with actually what's going up from a cosmic perspective. Astrology is something that I deeply respect and could never do because it's so mathematical and scientific. And Danielle literally is incredible at it. So she's an intuitive astrologer, and what that means is she takes your chart and the actual like logic and science of the chart, but she adds in her own intuition. So she's going through it and using her own psychic abilities. She does my chart, so you see the insights she has. She shares something very interesting in this episode, so you guys will know a little bit about what's going to happen to me in the next 6 months if the stars continue to align. And so I love it because a lot of astrology can be really cut and dry. And what's turned me off from astrology in the past, because I've only read, horoscopes in magazines, I'm like, how does it make sense that like everyone in the same month has the same personality? Like that doesn't make sense at all. So I've always before thought, oh, that can't work. But then when I started to learn more about how your birthplace and your birth time and all of these things are so connected, I've now have such a high respect for astrology, and Danielle really breaks it down on how that happens. We talk about different things to look out for in your chart, how she really works with the north nodes and the south nodes, which are things that most astrologers don't talk about, but she sees that as your south node is like related to your past lives, your north node is your Dharma and where you're going. So it's like super on point with this podcast. And she brings in just so much intuitive knowledge. She talks about what house to look for your romantic partners, how you can kind of see how you guys will connect. Afterwards, I had her do Steven's chart just because I needed to know everything. And it's truly, truly an amazing science. I really believe that this is not her first life doing it. I mean, it's definitely not. She's so knowledgeable, and it's just a cool thing to know about. I think everyone should know what their chart says, not to, be restricted to it or live your life based off of it, but just to have like a blueprint of who you are and where you're going and what you came to this earth with. I think it's really, really powerful to have that sort of knowledge, because now we're seeing, how much actually the moon position and the star and the sun positions actually affect us from a biological perspective. So more and more scientific research is showing how true astrology is. But it doesn't mean that whatever month you were born in, that's your personality. So you really have to look up your chart, your birth time, your birthplace. Because let's say one person's born in Azerbaijan, another person's born in Chile at the same time, the stars above them are still different. So even the location is really, really important. You can look up your chart on like astro.com and stuff. And I recommend just finding an astrologer who can read it better. But if that's something that's calling to you and you want to learn about it, go for it. It's something the world really needs. And she shares with us how there's even astrologers that predict like economic crashes and like the political sphere and so many things. So I'm really, really excited to share this episode with you and super excited to hear about your takeaways at the end. And again, I'm offering a free gift of my ebook, Eat Right for Your Mind Body Type. It's my unreleased book, and it's the first half of it. You'll get it for free. All you have to do is leave a review for this podcast on the iTunes store, which you don't even need a Mac to do. You can just go on the iTunes website and do so, and email it to me at sahara@eatfeelfresh.com, and I will send that over to you. Without further ado, let's get started. Healing Paige, Danielle Paige, intuitive astrologer and total goddess. Let's go. Welcome, Danielle, to the Highest Self podcast. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
I've been chatting with Danielle for the past hour and a half about my whole entire life. We have my chart sitting in between us, which I'll tell you guys all about. But first, I want to ask you, what makes you your highest self?
Ooh, what makes me my highest self? Good question. That I am just being aligned with my heart and listening and following my path, even when it sounds crazy to everyone else, and even when it sounded crazy to me when I didn't understand it, but I just kept going forward and listening.
I love that.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about your journey? I mean, where does one apply to become an intuitive astrologer? Like, how did this come to be? Can you tell us a little bit about how it happened? Some people on the Mind Body Balancers group also were like curious to know, how did this start?
Yeah, so when I was younger, I definitely never grew up saying, I can't wait to be an astrologer. It's definitely not something I said. But if I look back, I always said I want to be a doctor because I wanted to really heal people. So I think it started with that. But my background is completely different. I have a master's in interior architecture. So that's what I was doing before. Which is actually ironic that I was reading blueprints for homes and buildings, and now I read blueprints for people's soul, right? So everything is always connected. But so I was doing that. And then when I was around 30 years old, I went through my Saturn return. And I share this all the time, and it's the best story because it started me on the journey. Is I got dumped in France when I was 30 by my boyfriend. And that just started me on a path of, okay, I went back to Boston with him. We were living together.
I'm from Boston.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. I know. We have so many similarities. I mean, well, we've been together past lives. We've figured that out in our charts, too.
Where in Boston?
I was living in Brookline.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
From Newton.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. I had so many people went to Newton High, North and South, right? There's two of them. Yeah. That's so funny. So I moved back to Boston, or went back to Boston after the trip, and I realized I needed to move out because we were living together. It was his place, and I wasn't happy in my job. And I decided to, again, listen and follow my path. And I had no idea what I was going to do. I just knew I wasn't happy, drawing lines all day. I was like, drawing tiles and urinals for like buildings. I'm like, there has to be something more than this because I couldn't keep doing that. So then I moved back to California where my family was from. And that's when I had my spiritual awakening. And it was a series of many, many years. But it was, I started waking up with dreams that were coming true, started, listening and getting the sense that there was something more beyond the physical realm. And to me, that was so new. I had no idea what that was about. Then I started meditating, and then Spirit would show me things in meditation. And then I thought I was going crazy because I started seeing ghosts, right? And the whole thing was nuts. And then so over a series of maybe a year or two, then I met someone that did astrology, and he did my chart. And I'm like, that was the coolest thing ever. And basically, long story short, is I went home and started reading about astrology. And I did it till the sun came up, and I was basically hooked. And so from that point on, because I've always been interested in human behavior and what makes us do things, right? And that's what astrology really is in the birth chart. I just dove in, and I studied, hours and hours a day. This was when the recession hit, so there were no design jobs. So I was living with my parents. I was 30. My friends were getting married, and I'm like, I'm still crying for my breakup, and I have a master's degree and can't get a job, and I'm with my parents, and I'm like, what is going on with my life? But it was the most beautiful thing because everything needed to be burned down.
You could just focus on something that didn't have to make money.
Thank God I had my parents to go live with, right? And it was in Los Angeles. It's like I could have been anywhere that was cold, and I'm like, this is a really great place to be.
Right.
I'm like, they could be living somewhere in like the small town in the middle of nowhere, and it's LA. So I just started studying astrology, and it helped me figure out more about my soul. That's really what it started with. And then I said, wow, I need to do this for people. And then I started over years bringing in, the psychic element and bringing in the healing element. So really I use astrology as a tool now. And the whole time, I had no idea what I was doing. But all I did was listen and follow. Like, that's really what it comes down to. And my business is still going to change and go other directions. And I don't know where it's going to go because I don't know what gift Spirit's going to, channel through me. But that's just the story of life. We don't really know anything. We just act on what we have and what feels good, right?
So how did you know that you had psychic abilities?
Well, let's see. I didn't know. I always knew I was intuitive when growing up, to the sense of like, oh, I can, sense things around me. I would, have premonitions at times, but that was it. Kind of like we all have that, right? So I didn't know I was really psychic until the awakening started, and then I would start seeing things in my dreams and then they would happen during the day, or then I would start seeing spirits. And then after I realized I wasn't losing my mind, that I was actually seeing into other dimensions, it's something I felt. I felt that I have this gift. Ever since I was younger, little, I should say, I always knew I was here for something big, but I basically couldn't figure it out until about 30, 31. So for all the people that are struggling, I don't know what to do, let me tell you, I've hated every job I ever had before I was 30. I thought maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just going to be miserable. Like maybe there's something wrong with me, but it wasn't. That I was just not connected to my soul's purpose. So it was just an inner feeling of something like locked inside and said, no, this is actually what I need to do. And the psychic stuff just developed. And then I realized, oh, it's not actually that scary. We're all psychic. And so that's what I help people with is it's not anything new. It's actually strange to not get information because then you're really cut off from life.
Right. So do you think that some people are naturally born with psychic gifts, or everyone has them and just hasn't realized it?
I think that we all have them. I think some people, they're more in tune with it. And I think for whatever reason, call it karma, maybe it's upbringing, maybe it's fear. It's all there. It's just hidden. But some people, like right from the get-go, absolutely. But, I didn't see spirits when I was little. I didn't see things. So I think sometimes people think, oh, well, it can't happen to me because I didn't see that growing, I didn't have that. But I didn't have that either. My soul was, I think, way too scared. I wasn't ready for it at all. There was just no way. I saw one thing once, and I remember pulling the covers over my head, and I don't think I took a breath the whole night, and I was terrified, and I think I shut it down even more.
Right.
And that was it.
Well, I feel like they don't show up if they know they're going to scare you.
Right.
Yeah.
Because our consciousness is like closed to it.
Right.
Like I wouldn't allow it in. There was just no room for it.
Right. Yeah. I feel like when you're a kid, at least when I was a kid, I was just feeling and sensing things all the time, but I was always being like, it's not there. It's my imagination. Don't be scared.
Yeah.
But if my parents were like, oh yeah, like tell us about the spirits you saw, like who knows what would have ended up happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And some people are just way more open, and it's just their journey. And, that's what I had to learn. We all have our own journeys that we can't compare to anyone. Everybody has a specific purpose and mission and karma that they have to fulfill that has nothing to do with anyone else except yourself.
Absolutely. And that's what this podcast is all about. Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about how our charts can have to do with our dharmas, our life purposes.
So your chart is basically a blueprint for your soul. I like the way I go about astrology is we still have memories embedded in ourselves. So we still bring in stuff from past lives. But I like to say the birth chart it's like the jacket that we wear and we put on in this lifetime. And I just got chills when I said that. The spirit's like, yeah, we like that. It's like the jacket that we wear. So this is how we're going to express our energy. But we still have more memories, right? We were talking about past life stuff before. We still have that in us. But, your soul chose to express it in this fashion, right? And for this highest good. So, yes, we can see personality traits and, really mundane stuff in the birth chart. Absolutely. Which I'll talk about. Like, these are your preferences. Sure, this is what you like, with love and etc. But what I like to do is go deeper into, okay, I can see the past life energy that your soul is carrying in, your behavioral patterns that are very natural for you, but also get you stuck. So I could talk to clients about this is where we need to move away from. These are gifts still, but we can't stay here. This is what you're moving into. So this is more your purpose, the vibration of your purpose. This is where your soul is going. Like we look to see where Saturn is. That's a huge direction that your soul said, I'm going to learn in this lifetime. I'm going to put in a lot of time and energy. And then we start putting the whole chart together. So I think I honestly do the chart very different than most people. And I use my psychic abilities as well. And it creates a dance and a story. And then we get past life stuff and we're bringing it in and we go to future. And so I feel it. So it's amazing.
That. And you work a lot with the nodes. Can you tell us what these nodes are and what they represent?
So the nodes it's an axis in the chart. And there's a south node and a north node. They're not planets. It's like an ecliptic, but of the moon, but they are basically very important points in space that the south node talks about, again, where our deeply ingrained behavioral patterns come from. And then the North Node shows us where our soul needs to move towards. So without looking at this, I don't know how we really look at the rest of the chart, because it's almost like saying you opening a book or like going to a play, and in the middle of it, and you see all these characters, but you don't know the plot. Mm-hmm. The axis, to me, the North Node and the South Node axis really shows this is where your soul, this is the dance that you're learning in this lifetime. And then we can use the planets to help play that out. Mm-hmm. But if we don't know the plot, what are we going to do with the planets? Like, we can talk about Mars here and Venus there, but what's the point of them? You know? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know much about astrology, but I had definitely never heard of that. And it was so interesting. So the South Node, you said, is related to the past life stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's like the stuff that you brought in.
Yep.
So let's say, how can someone kind of know what their past life stuff is by looking at their South Node?
You can see, so with the past life, I look to the 12th house. I look at the sign ruling it. I look at any planets in the 12th house, and also the South Node. It just gives me the story. You know, I guess I can give...
So are you telling that just by what the sign is, or like where all of the planets are at that time?
It's the sign, but it's also the aspects that it's making and the house placement. And it's also information that I'm getting. That's where it's like, we can read books and we can just,
your things were specific.
Oh, my things were very specific. Yeah, absolutely. But that was also psychic information I was getting. Because like I said to you, I'm like, what I got, you're not going to get from the chart.
Exactly.
So that was chart and then information from spirit, you know, and that's just where I infuse it all. So it's a dance. It just what comes through. I never know what I'm going to pick up from someone. I have no idea until I do it.
So as like maybe a general rule, if you have like my South Node was like a water sign, you said, so that means I came in just knowing emotions, perhaps.
Yeah, with your South Node, can I share that where it is?
Yeah.
It's in Cancer, and so you actually have a really strong ability to take care and nurture. Like it's ingrained, whether you're doing it or not. There's a lot in the emotional world, and also you came in with family karma with Cancer. Cancer is very connected to family, so you had occurrences that you had to work out with family. And usually I see people with the South Node in Cancer, and it wasn't always the easiest. But yeah, and because you went through that with your family, you actually really know how to nurture, because you know what didn't help, right? So it's kind of like a catch-22 in a way, but it's actually one of your gifts. But if you were to stay in that environment, right, that's where it's like you wouldn't grow, but you knew to get out of that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting because in an Ayurvedic astrology point, I was born with a lot of kapha, the earth sign, which is the nurturing one.
Yeah.
So, so that's why that sounds similar to that, but it's always been like, I'm not kapha. I don't want to be like that. That's boring, you know? I want to do all the things, you know? So it's interesting how, I don't know if in Vedic astrology has that too, but you guys have the North sign, which is what you are striving towards. So can you explain a little bit of the North one? Yeah,
your North Node is so important. This shows me, at least the way I see it, this is one of the main reasons why you're soul incarnated. I almost see it as, okay, you're ready to go in, right? You're with your spirit guides, you're with your ascended masters, you're like, okay, this is the major vibration and lesson that I need to get. And the thing with the North Node, it's different for you. We talked about that. But usually people, the North Node is foreign to them because it's vibration, it's an energy that they don't know how to exist in.
Right.
So we have to learn it. We spend our whole life moving towards that North Node because that's our soul's purpose. So it's not just one thing.
So most people don't have that sign anywhere else that's their North Node?
I would say sometimes people have like one planet, also maybe, or two, but you, if you don't mind me.
Yeah, you can share.
She's like 5,000 planets in Capricorn, and her North Node is in Capricorn.
Right.
So what I was explaining to you earlier is that it's actually helping you because you're already do all this Capricorn stuff. Let's just break it down. You're already acting like a Capricorn and doing this Capricorn stuff because you're using your planets. So the fact that you're moving into that as well with your North Node, it's like you have an assist from the universe. Like the universe has your back. Well, the universe really has your back here.
And we were talking, you were like, how did you do all the things so young? And it's perhaps because I just had those planets helping me.
There's a lot of assistance.
Yeah,
which is really great. Sometimes I see people, they have their north node and their sun sign in the same one. And I'm like, okay, well, that's good. That's like really nice, beautiful energy assisting, but you have like 85 things. So it's like, okay, like that's great.
Cool.
It won't be as hard for you because it's not foreign territory. Like I was saying for my north node, I'm like,
So what's your north node?
so my north node is in Libra.
Okay.
Right. And so I'm learning relationships, right? I'm learning.
Libra's like fair and balanced, right?
Fair and balanced, right? And I'm very, my general nature is Aries. Like, I just kind of go do it on my own. I can jump on a plane. I can go somewhere. It's not that I don't care about people. I'm just like, oh, it's just easier for me to do it myself.
Right.
So I just do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, wait, was I supposed to ask you? Oh, I'm sorry. Were you waiting for me? Oh, did you want to come with me? Oh, my God, I'm so sorry. And then I get in trouble all the time because people are like, you hurt my feelings. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I was just, thinking about myself because the South Node Aries, that's what we do.
Yeah.
So, so I'm learning relationships and learning to be fair and not just like say things that are really sharp and strong, and I could have a tendency to do that.
For sure.
Yikes.
For sure.
So I'm really learning to be more of a soft, angelic fairy, which is going to be really interesting for me.
Good luck.
Because I'm fierce, yeah. So, right, but I have the rest of my life to learn.
Yeah.
So
that's so interesting. So can people, when they like look up their charts online, see what their north and south nodes are?
Yeah, you can see it. You won't see the south node in the chart. For some reason, it doesn't show up, but you'll see the north node, and the south node is always opposite it. So if they know how to read a chart, but then it's like, okay, do you know how to read the chart? It's like a whole other layer.
Okay.
Right, but they can look it up. They can go on astro.com and look it up themselves.
Okay.
And they can find it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So right now, I'm going to put this episode up as soon as I can because it's timely.
Yeah.
But we're in between these two eclipses, and you just shared that in your latest forecast. Can you share with us a little? I learned so much about the eclipses. So can you share with us what these mean and what is going on for the next 6 months that you mentioned?
Yeah, so eclipses are huge. So one thing I would say is everyone freaks out about Mercury retrograde, right? It's on the internet. And everyone's like, oh my God, Mercury's going retrograde. And I'm always like, don't worry. It's not a big deal. Like Mercury retrograde's like driving over a speed
feel like
bump.
people overdo it.
They do.
Yeah.
And I try to really show people the true essence of astrology that yes, Mercury retrograde is annoying at times. There are beautiful things, but it's like annoying like little brother like poking you and like you're just like stop, Okay, so that's Mercury retrograde. Eclipses though, this is huge time of transformation. So eclipses happen twice a year. Around every 6 months. And eclipses are connected to fate. So here's the thing. Because we're energetic beings and what happens above, in the sky actually happens inside of us because we're connected. Okay. And the eclipses are with the sun and the moon.
The cosmic body.
The cosmic body. Yeah. So everything.
That's a perfect title for your book, actually.
I know.
Yeah.
It's going to be. There you go.
Yeah.
Guys, my book is out. Cosmic Body.
Congratulations on your new
Thank
book.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're manifesting that.
I know. I love this. Good vibes here. So the eclipses. So we all feel the energy because they are basically powerful full moons and new moons. Like they're supercharged new moons. Now,
and you can't have one without the other, right?
Right. So you have they switch off. So you have we just had a full moon. Now, full moon lunar eclipse. Now we're going to have a new moon solar eclipse on February 15th.
So they're always 2 weeks apart?
Yeah, about 2 weeks apart.
How many times a year does this happen?
Twice a year. So it's around 6 months.
Okay.
So we all feel them because, first of all, we all feel when the moon is full, right? Because it rules our emotional body, the moon. And so that's why people get emotional, they cry, or they can't sleep. So this is like this times 10,000. Okay.
Someone asked me, does your appetite increase during full moons?
I think that it's different for everyone.
Okay.
I would say yes to that because the full moons, it's like supercharged energy is really high. So when you're like that, you're kind of that's like more like pitta, right?
Right.
Like you're more
They
like
probably have
fire.
fire,
So
yeah.
you're like doing because you feel like you're emotionally charged.
Right.
So yes, I can see people doing that. But then there's some people that are like, they're exhausted because you kind of get to the other end of the
last
spectrum.
night I literally went to sleep at 9 and I woke up
amazing.
at 9. I slept for 12 hours.
It's incredible.
But like other people.
That's why you're glowing and look radiant. I'm like, you look beautiful.
But then like other times I'm like up all night. So
Yeah.
I need to keep track of really what's going on. But last night was a full moon. So that must have made my cough self tired.
Yeah, how were you the night before? I'm curious.
I'm not sure. 2 nights ago.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been pretty like I mean, this whole bed bug thing is going on. So
Yeah.
I've been like not sleeping. So that was
Yeah.
like the first time that I really slept.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's different for everyone. It just also depends on what's going on in our life and you know, like what we're eating and what we're doing.
For sure.
But yes, it could absolutely do that. The thing about the eclipses, so we all feel them, but if they hit a planet in your birth chart, that's the big deal. So that means that planet is getting eclipsed. What that means is the planet needs to change the expression of the energy. So you're getting upgraded. So eclipses then change the trajectory of your life. And that's why all of a sudden people get new jobs or have to move or get engaged or get divorced, right? You're basically new doors are opening and new chapters are opening.
So eclipses will only affect you if your planet is being eclipsed.
Yes.
Which planet?
Any planet in your chart, any planet or angle, if it's getting hit by that eclipse. And the eclipses are always different degrees.
Is it possible to look that up somewhere, or you have to like know how to read charts?
Yeah, you can just Google. Well, you'd have to. Anyone could Google like what is the eclipse degree. So anyone can check that out. But then you'd have to know your chart, which you can learn and get on
online,
astro.com, and then you look to see, do I have any planets or angles around that degree?
Okay, so where would you?
So
be
we
looking
just
at
had the full moon lunar eclipse was 11 degrees of Leo.
Okay.
Now here's a really good thing. A lot of people think, oh well, I'm not a Leo. It's not going to matter, right? So, but the thing is, we have all the planets in us. So even though like I'm a Taurus sun, but my Mars was at 13 degrees of Leo. So it hit my Mars. You, if you don't mind me sharing, your Jupiter is at 10 degrees of Leo, right? And you're a Capricorn sun. So even if it's not your sun sign, we still have so many other planets in there, right? So we're so much more than our sun sign. So for you,
it affected
your Jupiter, and it's also opposing your Venus, which is why, we talked about some stuff.
Yeah. So what is like moving related to Jupiter? Because then moving, happens to be my new lease begins on February 15th.
Oh,
which
that's
is the solar
amazing.
eclipse.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, do you live with your boyfriend?
No.
Are you guys moving in together?
No.
I think that could happen. So because it's the 8th house is like
I don't
shared
move in
resources.
until we're married.
Shared resources.
Okay.
So we'll just see what happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to get married to me first.
Yeah, well, that's also
Steven,
something that listen to this.
He won't listen.
Subliminal message. No, I'm just kidding.
We can talk about anything. He doesn't listen.
Oh, he doesn't listen. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I also asked you that question before, right? If something was happening, and
so it's like moving spaces for new relationship beginnings.
Right. So it just depends. So if you were single and this hit your Venus, I'd be like, oh, in the next 6 months, there's probably a new relationship coming in, right? Okay. Since you're with someone, right? Okay, well, that relationship is going to grow to a new level.
Right.
Right. And so that's why I'm
then what if you're already married? Just adding a new level of depth to your relationship?
Absolutely. But I've also seen people where it hits the Venus and sometimes there's a separation, right? So it just really depends on what's going on. That's why you can't be so generic as like, oh, it hits this and that's what's going to happen. Like, no, it's like,
what if it means in 6 months we just happen to break up?
I mean, there's always free will about everything.
Right.
Anything can happen to anyone.
So you only see if it affects relationships, but you can't see if it's like going good or bad or something.
Well, to me, the first thing when I saw this, I was like, oh, she's going to get engaged.
Okay.
That was the first thing that I saw. That's what I felt.
Cool.
Because I was like, oh, it's hitting her Jupiter and her Venus. That's like, they're both beautiful planets of abundance and love. And I'm like, okay, and we're changing the story. So eclipses, the energy sometimes it's one event that happens around the eclipse, but then it's the unfolding for the 6 months. So people don't realize that then the story begins to
And I
create.
love how you wrote that in your forecast. Where can they find your forecast, by the way?
Oh, on my website at healingpaige.com. It's Paige.
Yeah, and I'll link to it. But I love how you wrote, like, people freak out over dates in astrology.
Right.
Today's the day that everything's going to change.
Right, and it's not like
it's periods of time.
And that's the biggest thing. Sure, things get... Right now, we're in between eclipses, and things are shaky. Absolutely, things are happening. People are leaving. You're like, I didn't see that coming, right? Because things are messy because... we have to have the construction before we could rebuild. But then it's the 6 months of then moving into it and learning about the journey.
Right.
That's what really happens.
Right. Yeah, because I feel like a lot of people, they pay such attention to like that day.
Right.
And then it's like either you're going to manifest something to happen that day or nothing happens and you're like, oh, this is all bullshit.
Right.
But it's like change is always happening. It's always a progression. So I think it's important
Absolutely.
to look at like larger periods of time.
It's like one of my biggest pet peeves about, I love this online world because first of all, I wouldn't have a job or business.
Of course.
But one of my biggest pet peeves is the people that write and it's like, there are so many things I can write to get more followers, but it's not authentic.
Right.
And there's so many people. Listen, there's a million amazing astrologers out there too. So I don't just want to sound like they're all negative. Though there's incredible astrologers.
Right.
But there's a lot of people that
like
jump on.
Clickbait. You
Totally.
can tell.
And I will refuse to do that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yes, that was a big day because energetically we were feeling it.
Right.
But it's not just that one day.
Right. And then in 2 weeks, there's another day. It's
Yeah.
like, well, every day is leading up.
Things happen besides the eclipse. There's always something going on. So my specialty is
That's
not
the always
tracking
thing I
everything.
worry about with astrology. I'm like, wait, isn't there always something going on?
There's always.
Yeah.
And so I don't actually, I do esoteric and soul astrology to help people heal their soul. And I track the major events, but I don't track like, oh, Venus moved into this sign and the moon is here now because
your life can get
I can't. Like, it's exhausting. I wake up, I look at it, and I want to go back to bed.
Yeah.
It's just too much. And
Yeah.
you also have to live your life and just feel the soul.
Right.
So I'll talk about the major things for sure, but that's just not the kind of astrology that I do.
Totally. I mean, I see a lot of people, like a Vedic astrologer I once saw, who really wanted me to give up my free will. It was like, you have to live your life like
Right.
this. You have to wear these rings. You have to draw these pictures. You have to do all of these things. And I was like, at first I was like, okay, well, he said a lot of things that make sense, so maybe I should follow. And I was like, no, screw this. I want to live my own life.
Yeah.
But one thing that I've always not resonated with is like, it seems like in this cosmopolitan astrology, it's like if you're born this month, you have this personality. And I'm like, how does that make sense? So do you think that that is even true, or it's just based off your chart?
I think that there are tendencies. So what people look up when they're in a magazine or whatever online is they look up their sun sign.
Right.
Also, people call it the star sign. And so, yes, as a Capricorn, there are certain traits that you have. As a Taurus, there are certain traits that I have. So absolutely, but that's like 5% of it, because then it's like, what I'm a Taurus, but then what other planets are aspecting my sun sign that are going to change it. So I actually have Uranus opposing my sun sign, so it actually gives me an Aquarian flavor. So I'm more Aquarian than maybe some Tauruses, but I definitely have Taurus traits, you know. I like nice things. I like to be comfortable. If you push me, I'm going to like, steam's going to come out of my ears, right? I have to go at my own pace, right? Super loyal, right? But I have an Aquarian flavor. Like, I'm like, oh, I just need to be free and do my own thing. And I love weird shit, you know, and like just, I love everything kind of like out there,
Okay.
you know? So that's where we start layering stuff on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I always feel like people read whatever it says in the magazine, and I'm like, how does it make sense that everyone born in the same month should have the same life as you?
Right.
Like, that doesn't make sense.
It's not. And I mean, if we're getting real here, the horoscopes, I don't do that because it's actually not accurate. Like, if you want to read it for fun, by all means, go for it.
Right.
But if somebody doesn't have your birth time, date, and location, there's no way we can see what's happening for your cycles, because we all have our own cycles besides what happens in the sky.
Right.
And so when you're reading the horoscopes, it's just, I know how people set it up. It's set up, but it's not connected to anything. It's not real.
Right. Yeah, I
So-
wonder, it's like, where do they even think
No,
of that? They
it's
just,
not-
like,
it's not
the
real.
Cosmo editor's like, I'm going to write this.
Yeah, it's not real. I mean, I don't know. I could probably get a bunch of astrologers that, no, real astrologers would agree with me. Like,
course.
true essence, like this is your mystical craft.
Yeah.
They would
You
100%
need to know
agree.
where, because also on the planets, when you're born, it's in different places. If I was born in Africa, if I was born in
Right.
Australia, the stars would
The
have
wheel-
been
and the
totally
wheel's
different.
gonna change your chart.
Yeah. So I think that's really
Absolutely.
important.
I get super passionate about this. Like, you could tell, I just can't. It's, this is my craft.
Yeah, and I think it's so important, because that's the thing that for me, I was like, oh, astrology must be like bullshit, because that doesn't
Totally.
make sense.
Yeah.
But then when you go into like, oh wow, it's a science and it's super mathematical, but only if you're getting the accurate
Oh,
chart reading.
absolutely. You know, this is an ancient craft. Like, we were talking about this. You know, we both have a connection to the Middle East, and I mean, my soul has done this before, and so now we're both bringing in the wisdom from, you know, ancient Egypt, ancient wherever, and, you know, bringing it into modern day. And this is something that people have used.
So
forever.
a lot of people are interested in like kind of knowing a little bit more about their essence, their past lives, how did you feel that you had this connection with ancient Egypt and the Middle East? How did that come up?
Good question. Again, it's just something that I feel in my soul. It started with India, actually, when I was younger. I always had a connection to India. I learned so much about Hinduism when I was younger, and I was just fascinated by that. And then later on, it started going into the Middle East, and I just feel it in my soul. I can't explain it. So I went to Egypt, and when I stood there in front of the pyramids and the Sphinx, I just stood there, and I just cried. And I cried so hard in the most beautiful way because I felt like I was home and I couldn't explain it. And everything in my body was vibrating, and it was actually one of the best days of my life. And I stood there, and I was actually wearing all white. You know, of course, I went to get cute pictures, right? So I stood there, I was wearing all white, and I'm thinking afterwards, I'm like, I felt like it was my wedding day. I couldn't explain it because I was home. And I felt like I was with my lover, if that made sense, because I was so connected with my soul, which is my lover.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's like, you know, our lives, we're born with this map, and it's like certain places that we have to go.
Absolutely.
And it's like for this like kind of like pilgrimage / soul retrieval. And then sometimes you go, and then that karma, whatever it is released.
Absolutely.
And then you're kind of free. Like this last trip for me from India, I was like, I need to go back. And now I feel like a little bit free. Like India's there, but I feel like I'm not like, oh, I need to get back there. I'm like whatever that was really like released me and freed me to now go into other planes too.
And that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's
you
why
balance the karma.
Exactly. So I think when people are drawn to go to a place or a culture, like do whatever you can, go there.
Absolutely. And I love to travel. I've been so many places, and I'm going to Morocco. That's my next step, and then Greece again.
Well, I feel the Middle Eastern vibes.
Oh, God, I just feel it. Did you see my Egypt pictures over there? You'll have to,
yeah.
I'll show you. Oh, my God. Yeah, it's just, I can't even get the words out. And I don't have trouble saying stuff ever, but I almost can't get the words out because I just feel it. Like if I'm touching my heart right now, it just feels like this is what my soul knows.
Yes.
And I'm here to connect with that again.
Yeah. No, I think it's so important. I think we all have this in multiple cultures. I mean, we both are like also Hispanic.
Oh yeah, I salsa dance.
Yeah, same.
I'm trying to learn Spanish. Not really going well, you know.
But yeah, different, and I think different past lives come out in different points of our lives too.
I 100% agree with you.
And it's like, you know, maybe that Indian teacher was there for you when you were a kid, and now it's like the Moroccan ones come, and then later a Chinese one might come.
Absolutely.
And then a Native American one, and you just keep listening to that soul.
I love it. I love it. And my North Node is in the 9th house, which is international travel and culture. And so, like, this is part of my path. Like, I just got to keep going.
Right.
I love it. So I'm like, works for me.
I love that.
Yeah.
So how can people see can they see what careers are best for them in their charts?
Yeah, we could, we dive in and, you know, there's a career angle. So we talk about that, and then we see where the ruling planet is and what house it's in and what aspects it's making to other planets. And then again, I create a story, you know, based on your soul and what comes to me. So absolutely, we can see tendencies. These are your gifts, right? There's something here. So, you know, it's not black and white, the chart, but in some ways it's very black and white because it's like, oh, okay, well, you need to go this direction, right? There's this vibration. As long as you're doing this kind of stuff, right, whatever it is, then that's where your happiness will come from, right?
Okay.
And so some people come to me and are totally lost, right? And some people are on track, right? It's just different. But absolutely, career, relationships, purpose, really just finding out who you are. Like that's why I love this so much, because we're not born with a blueprint. Like being human is not always the easiest thing in the world. It's like, what are we doing here? What am I supposed to do next? So the more we can understand who we are at the soul level and what we came here to fulfill, then once we're aligned, you know, things are easier. Yeah.
So what do you think right now is going on in the world from an energetic perspective? Because I mean, I feel like even though before Trump's election, but like the past few years since really 9/11 have been crazy. is this in the skies? What does it say? Is this going to end? Anything that you know?
Good question. Very loaded question.
Yeah.
Because I think I have a very different take on a lot of things about, like, first of all, I think 9/11 was set up.
Right.
It's personal. I really do. I think that obviously I'm not thrilled about Trump being there at all. But what I was saying from the beginning is that I believe that this is just where we're at. So it's our mirror. So it's obviously showing our shadows and everything. So in a way that I know there's going to be people like that say, I can't believe she said this. I don't support him and I don't like him.
Right.
However,
but it needed to happen.
There's a bigger picture here that because of all this, other things are happening that are so beautiful. And we're always going to we live in a dualistic universe. There's polarity. So we're always going to have black and white. We're always going to have good and bad. There is always. And so we need sometimes things like this for us to see. And now I know that's very hard. There's going to be a lot of people saying, I can't believe she said this, and understand. But I ask you to open your mind and expand, because that's actually a very broader view of the world, not looking at it in the narrow scope.
Right.
Like, I don't sit there and cuss him out and say I'm going to put curse on him. Like, I don't do those things because first of all, that's bad energy. I don't want that. And I don't focus on those little things. I focus on what I actually want and where I see the world going. So to me, that's actually healthier than like cussing him out, because what is that going to do for anyone?
Right.
That's actually, you're only mirroring that energy.
That same, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I definitely feel like what is happening right now is opened up our minds to like, wow, this side of America exists, and like it's potentially the majority. Right. Wow, there are a lot of racists and sexists out there. Yeah.
It's shocking, but we also need to see this because we need to change it, right? If we just kept putting it under the rug, we can't see it. So, it's tricky because it could sound like I don't have compassion, but I actually have so much compassion for humanity. But I also have a larger perspective in that sometimes there is suffering that we need to experience because that's how things change.
Exactly.
Right? So I'm not for bad things happening at all. I'm for the bigger picture, and sometimes it needs to come out in those ways, right? This is just a very broad view of life.
There's this Bulgarian psychic. I don't know if you've heard of her. No. I don't remember her name. I'll post it in the show notes if I find it. And she lived, I think, in the 1920s or 30s or something. She predicted every president, like said their name. And she said the last president of the U.S. was going to be Obama. And
okay, I actually did hear that.
Yeah, and then after that, we're not going to have like a presidency. Yeah, it's going to change into another system.
Right.
So I'm wondering if this all needs to happen for him to get impeached, and we just change this system.
I have chills all through my body right now.
Yeah.
All through my body right now, head to toe chills.
Yeah.
I did hear about that woman. Yeah, so absolutely. That's why I know if people are just focused on him.
He's just nothing.
Right. Yeah. It's actually, he's transcending everything.
Right.
He's just, it's the change that we needed.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, I don't even feel like he's going to be here that long.
I mean, there's so much, he's doing such a horrible job.
Right. Yeah.
That even the people who voted for him and are in his party are all quitting, and it's crazy that something's going to change. And people are like, well, I don't want him to get impeached because then it's going to be Mike Pence, who's even worse. Right. But I feel like this whole like electoral and like the whole system,
it doesn't work.
It doesn't
anymore.
work.
It worked way back when.
Right. We have too much of a population for like your electorals to count more than your populate votes, and it's just, I feel like it's
archaic.
Yeah. So from the cosmic perspective, does it say that, from a Vedic perspective, this era is called like Kali Yuga? It's like a crazy time. So does it say anything this is supposed to be a time like this, and when it's going to end, or if there's going to be a shift, kind of how 2012 was a big turning point?
Yeah, well, if anyone is interested, this type of astrology is called mundane astrology, and there are some amazing astrologers out there. Unfortunately, I don't have any names off the top of my head, but they can Google. It's called mundane, and they basically follow the political and economical currents, and it's fascinating.
Wow.
So I'm not an expert in that because I really focus on absolutely people do that, and it is brilliant because you see the trends.
Right.
People go back during like when Hitler was around, and they look at what was going on, and did it predict Hitler? No, but you can see the tension.
Wow.
Right. So there are astrologers that do that, but I will say,
over a certain country, it would be tension in the skies.
Tension or over the time frame the error, right? And yeah, if you could map it down to the specific country, absolutely. Wow. Yeah, there are people that do that, and it's so fascinating. But right now, Pluto, it's in Capricorn. It's been moving through Capricorn for a while, and Capricorn is structure and, government, and Pluto is transformation. So it's a long, slow process, but it's transformation of that. So that's been going on. And what's also interesting is that Uranus, transiting Uranus, is about to move into Taurus this spring. I don't have the exact date off the top of my head, but this spring in 2018. And then Taurus rules the banking systems, farming, money, economics. So we're going to see, we're already seeing that with like Bitcoin and all that stuff. There's going to be even more changes with that coming. So yeah, you can see that there's some stuff happening. Again, it's not my major focus, but I will be talking about Uranus moving into Taurus because we are going to see stuff with money. It's completely changing even more.
I think this whole cryptocurrency is changing our way we have money, and it's all going to be like digital, but then like it's crazy.
It's part of that moving into Taurus because it happens. The energy starts even before, so that's
going to happen in spring.
Yeah, but the energy it's already building, so that's why we're having all these changes. So that's where it's coming. But astrologers, we can see that it's even moving. The banking system is about to get completely shaken up, but it's good. It's about time.
Right.
So there's going to be a lot of changes with that.
It's crazy. Even right now in India, the banking system and the economy has changed so much. They added this tax to everything, and now like the city of Delhi was shut down today.
Wow.
Because like now every time you want to purchase something that's like a certain amount of money, you have to like petition to the government. Like all of these things are happening that I feel like even globally, like money is just changing. Like we don't want banks to control our money anymore.
And that's that Uranus is a revolution and shaking up and sudden changes and breaking free from. And so it's already happening because it's not, again, energy doesn't have a start, stop, and a start and a stop. As it's building and moving into it, that's when the activity is happening. So we're already there. It's going to move even deeper into it in spring, but we're already there. So yes, you can literally look up at the cosmos and mundane astrologers predict world events because of this stuff.
It's crazy. Yeah, no, I went to this conference and there was this like psychic that specializes in like the stock market, and she has a huge following because she's made people millions of dollars.
She's genius. It's great.
Yeah. And she just tells them what to buy and what to sell. And I went so many years ago, I don't remember what she said, but I'm sure if you guys Google, you'll find many like her.
That's amazing.
But that's so scary. For me, I'm like, I could never give up my power to like some money psychic.
Yeah. Well, Ronald Reagan used an astrologer.
I think all the presidents. I wouldn't be surprised if Trump has one.
That would actually shock me. That would be amazing. if he wants me to come in,
all have them,
and give him like a little soul healing, I'd be more than happy.
Or have some like voodoo black magic people around him.
No black magic. We're gonna heal his soul.
Yeah,
we're gonna heal. We're gonna send him
he
love.
Probably has them with him.
Oh,
He's
absolutely.
Like, send evil vibes to Kim Jong-il.
That I just don't even know what goes on in his mind. I'm not even gonna start.
No, I don't even think he's there yet. Okay, so I also want to know about love, and how do you see if two people are compatible or not from their charts?
So I'm glad you asked that because this is really important. If I take two people's charts, you can't see if the relationship is going to work or not. Okay, so that's important thing to know.
Because I used to go on these websites, I typed in my name,
trust me, I did in the beginning
80% compatibility. I'm like, no, I would like change the spelling of the name.
Absolutely.
Add the middle name until it worked out.
Absolutely, we're like, please. This is the thing. What it shows when I pull two people's charts together, it will show how they interact with each other. Okay. It will show if there's tension. I always look, if I'm doing two people's charts, I look to their moons because your moon sign is your inner world and your emotions and like behind closed doors.
What's my moon, Capricorn?
It's your moon's in Capricorn.
If I'm going to guess, I'm just
just anything Capricorn. Capricorn. She has 86 planets in Capricorn. No, I'm kidding. Your moon is your inner world. So in order to cohabitate, you need to be able to... Your emotional worlds need to be in sync. So the first thing I look at is two people's moon sign. Can they live together? Because what is it like? It's one thing to go out and party together. What is it like actually behind closed doors?
So is your moon the one that like Cosmo Magazine says, that the one that if you just look up your birth month? Is that your
No,
moon?
they
That's
say
your
your sun sign.
Mm.
Yeah.
So moon, you have to go online.
Yeah, moon, you have to go online. And it's really important because it's your emotional needs.
Okay.
You know, what you need to feel nurtured and feel safe. So that should be in alignment, right? But then I also look to see someone's Venus. You know, it's really not so much, it's putting the charts together, but before you do that, you have to be like, what does person A need and what does person B need? Okay, now put them together. How do they interact, right? Well, does this person push that person's button? Like, I can sometimes see, they're going to fight a lot because this is clashing. Now, here's the thing. That might be the relationship that lasts forever because person A might need dynamic tension and person B, right, in that relationship. In the beginning, you know, I would take everyone I was dating in the beginning and put them together. And I'm like, oh my God, then we're going to get married, right? The ones that were so beautiful looking actually never worked for me. There's some stuff that you need to look for. But the thing is, because my soul is not looking for just like a pet. That's like here. Do you know what I'm saying?
You're looking for more polarity.
I'm looking for passion.
Yeah.
Right? I'm looking for heat.
Is that because of your Aries South Node?
Yeah, I have a lot of fire in my chart. I have a lot of Leo too, you know, and Sagittarius. So it's like, I need that someone that like, you know, keeps that fire burning. So it doesn't matter what it necessarily looks like. It really comes down to what does person A need, what does person B need, and then it's it together.
So you should be looking for someone who's in Aries then.
Not necessarily. So I'm definitely, actually, no, I need someone with passion, but what a nice compliment would be is someone that's actually calmer than me because I can get really like hyper and riled up.
Right.
So because I have so much fire already. So the guys I used to date when I was younger had so much fire because I would be like, oh, I'm attracted to that, you know, like a go-getter. But then we would butt heads completely, right? So I'm not looking for someone passive because that's not what I want either. But you can be strong and more silent. Strong
So Scorpio.
Yeah, more like a Scorpio would be, oh my God, it's like a dream because they're super sexual. That would be great, right? So, but I also tell people, don't look just for one sun sign because I can be with someone that is an Aries, but then maybe they have a lot of earth and water in their chart. That's a really nice compliment to me. So don't worry about their sun sign because that's only 5% of it. So like, it doesn't even matter to me if I met someone. Like, I'm always curious because I'd like to know.
So it
but
could potentially work with anyone according to the rest of the chart. Are there two signs that is like, no, they can't be together?
No. So the kind of astrology I do, and someone else might differ, but I'm telling you, if you want real astrology from like ancient times, any sign can be with any sign.
Got it.
Because it's based on so much more of that. Sure, as a Taurus, I have tendencies that I might want this, and right, a Gemini might want something else, but that Gemini could have a Venus in Taurus, and it could be conjunct my sun sign, and then boom, we're super connected like that, you know? So it's just, but you need opposites, you know, you need tension in any relationship. You need polarity, the yin and the yang.
Okay.
So it's beautiful.
So look for someone who has the opposite sign as you in those specific houses.
Well, it's more like, what are you missing? So you don't have a lot of water in your chart. And so the first thing I wrote down, I asked, I'm like, does your boyfriend have a lot of water? And you're like, he's a Scorpio. So I was like, beautiful.
I think his rising, I don't know what that is a Libra.
Okay.
When I looked it up online. I don't know what
that's
that.
Beautiful. Yeah, I mean, that's really like balanced and fair and like likes nice things and really just like,
oh yeah,
you know,
he
that's
definitely likes, I'm like, let's save all our money. And he's like, no, let's buy things.
Yeah. So that's a nice balance to that Scorpio. Scorpio could get really intense, so that Libra calms it down a little bit, you know?
I think that's so important because a lot of people, I think they even change their personalities, right? Like they like read like, oh, I'm a Scorpio, therefore like I must be dark and I must be this and that. And then they like create this where it's like, who knows, maybe you were also Libra. And you just never channeled that side because you put yourself into this box.
Yeah, and you have so many more. Like, people's South Node is actually more of who they are. We're actually growing into our sun sign. So I think we're more of our South Node until we kind of let some of that energy go, you know? So that's why it's so much more than just sun sign. And I try to explain to people. And astrology is complex. Like, there's no other way to say it. Right. You know, I try to break it down as easy as I can.
So
but
you are
complex.
Basically like what your South Node is until you can figure out how to become your North Node.
In some ways, yeah. I mean, obviously we're all the other things too, but we play out a lot of our South Node.
Okay.
And it's never going to go away because it's who we are, but it's more we want the shadow energy to go away.
Okay.
You know?
Got it.
Like my shadow energy of Aries might be like, okay, just doing everything for myself and just like forging forward, not even looking around. That's more shadowy. But my gifts with Aries is I'm strong and I empower women because I know how to have courage. So keeping that and empowering women to do that,
Now
so,
coming into your feminine and
right,
surrendering and
right.
stuff.
Which I've this past year has been like, oh my God, feminine goddess energy, just, and I love it. It's so juicy and amazing, and like, working from there is so much easier than working from that like Aries energy that I was most of my life. Nothing against Aries. Aries is
So
beautiful.
are each signs like split up into feminine and masculine?
Yeah.
So is Capricorn more masculine?
Capricorn is more masculine.
Okay.
Yeah. But we still have all of it in
Scorpio
us.
is masculine?
Scorpio is, well, see, in some ways I've heard Scorpio is masculine, but it's feminine too because it's a water sign.
I feel like it's sensitive.
That's why it's
Yeah.
water. So like I've read both, and to me it's honestly both, because Scorpio is like, at the end of the day though, it is sensitive, so it is feminine, but it has that fierceness that makes it masculine. But it really is feminine because it's a water sign.
Okay.
Yeah.
So water signs are all feminine, earth signs
More
are all
feminine.
masculine.
More so, yeah. But
Fire
I mean,
signs.
more, I would say they tend to be more masculine.
Okay.
You know, but then air, it just, like Gemini is both. 'Cause
Okay.
Gemini is the twins, so
So it's air and fire.
yeah, but Taurus, here's the thing, Capricorn
Is Taurus an earth sign?
or earth sign. So it depends. To me, Capricorn is more masculine, but it's also very earthy, which is feminine. So you have the both, so it's kind of split.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because obviously there's men and women, and there's all polarities of both. And I think with each sign, I mean, it's like a dosha. There's so much to it, and you don't necessarily take it all. You just take tidbits. So that's why it's so important to, like, of course, know your whole chart, and also just know yourself.
100%. We're so dynamic, and we change, and our birth chart doesn't change, but we have transits to it, and it evolves, and then we have a progress chart, and that evolves. And so we learn to step into the higher energy of the planets as we evolve.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested in like comparing all of the signs to the doshas too. I mean,
That would
Taurus,
be
like when you
amazing.
talk about it, it sounds so kapha to me.
Yeah, it is from what I know of that.
Yeah, a very just like they like I have a cousin, and it's also very like Venusian, like Venus.
Absolutely, because it's
like
ruled
nice
by Venus.
thing. Oh yeah,
Yeah, and Libra and
So do you know
Taurus
about
are
the
ruled by
planetary
Venus.
enneagrams? Have you heard of that?
What
It's called planetary enneagram. It's basically like what was going on in the stars when your mother was pregnant with you.
Oh, no, I don't know
Yeah,
about that.
so
That's
it's like actually, it's like an ancient Greek thing. So it's certain organs in your body were more formed than others. So people who are like Venusian, Venus people, they tend to have more active thyroid glands.
Right, because it's ruled by, so each planet is ruled by a part of the body, or each sign. So it's the same thing. It's
Exactly.
connected.
And kapha is throat chakra.
Yeah.
And they have thyroid. And then when I saw it, it was like they tend to gain weight in their like hips and their butts, and they have this. That's why in ancient Greek they liked the Venusian body. That was sexy to them. They were more curvy and feminine, and they were like lounging, eating fruits. And I think Taurus, I think kapha.
So I'm going to tell you something funny. So I'm a Taurus. I have a low thyroid. I'm definitely curvy. And I'm from Greece as well. So how do you like them apples?
Exactly.
Right? That's
exactly.
like my whole thing.
Yeah. It's so interesting. Look up planetary enneagrams because they also there's not that much
cool.
there's not that much information about it, but they also compared it to the body types and the health, and it's based off of Ayurveda with astrology, with like their Greek principles and stuff. But the one that I felt really drawn to was the Jupiter one. They're called jovials, and literally the word like to be jovial, to be happy comes from that.
Yeah.
So each place is either positive or negative. So Venusian people are actually more positive, and so are the jovials, that they just tend to be positive. But jovials tend to gain weight in their stomach, which was like always the area I was like, I hated about my body.
And you're a Sag rising, which is ruled by Jupiter.
Interesting. Yeah. And Jupiter is very like, save the world, humanitarian, do the right
big,
thing.
Do anything.
Yeah,
Go
exactly.
Big.
And like, I want to be a thought leader. I want to win the Nobel Prize.
Yep.
And I'm like,
philosopher.
Yeah. And then there's like the lunar people who they tend to be more negative, and they're like the artsy,
The brooding,
the outsiders.
the mystic. Yep.
And they're like tall and thin. And I'm like, they're so Vata.
Yeah, that is.
And then there's the Saturn people who they tend to have like broad shoulders, and they're like the when you ever have an issue, you go to the Saturn people. They're like kings.
Yep.
Then,
like authoritative.
Yeah.
Authoritative, yeah.
And then some, you can also have solar energy, which is just like sun energy. And that is just makes you like radiant and like glowy and like people just like are gravitated towards you. So for example, like Marilyn Monroe had that, or even like Michael Jackson, like these people just have like a natural like star power. So I think it's really interesting how like the body types, the stars, like all of these things are
all connected, and the archetypes. It's universal archetypes. So that's why
I freaking love archetypes.
Once you understand that, like anyone can learn astrology.
You can understand your life,
right? Because it's just you get the pattern, the vibration.
But how do you think it affects you? Like you meet someone and then you look up their chart and it's like one side you know so much about them, but also you might be putting your own judgments. How do you battle that?
I don't look anymore.
You don't?
When I meet people. I don't, because I mean it was fun. It's something I did in the beginning, but like honestly now I'm busy.
So if you met a guy and things are going well, you're not going to be tempted to pull.
Not at first. I won't look because I want to. You want to go. In the beginning, I would have done it in a second.
Yeah.
But now I just know so much that like I really want to get to know him.
Right.
You know, and then I'll definitely be curious. But what happens is when we're sitting there talking in my head, I'm like, oh yeah, he has Pluto squaring this, or his Venus is here. Like I could just tell.
Yeah.
And they also show me like spirit shows me like symbols around people. Like and they'll show me like Aquarius, and so it's just like a sign for me, like they have Aquarian
Egypt
flavor
in you with the symbols,
right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like it's not even, they don't even necessarily have to be an Aquarius, but like it's just like I get that archetype.
Yeah.
Right. So they show me the flavor of them. So like that's what happens when I'm on dates. When I'm like, oh, and I'm like, okay, that's wearing that. It's training that. I'm like, oh, his moon is over here.
Yeah. He's like, let's split the bill.
Yeah. And I'm like, I gotta go. See ya. Bye.
Like I'm a Taurus bitch.
I'm like, Saturn is squaring your Venus for sure. There's a fear of money. Your money's tight. Okay. Saturn squaring Venus. I gotta go.
So funny. Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's like such a tool that like, you know, it could easily overtake your whole life and you like judge people. I know in India, like every business person has an astrologer that all their business deals they talk to. I mean, some of them swear by it, but like there's this guy, he was like, I think like the richest person in India or something. And he has a huge house in the middle of Bombay. Yeah. His name is Mukesh Ambani. And it's this huge, massive building. It's like 60-floor building. And I don't know, he spent $1 billion on it or something. Yeah. And I don't know what's in the house. It has like a water slide that goes down a few floors and like it snows in there, all this stuff. Yeah, all this crazy stuff. And then his astrologer told him he can't live there. And so
he moved?
Yeah, he doesn't. It's empty. It's an empty house it's like the tallest building in Bombay.
Wow.
And that's how serious they are about it.
See, that's the thing. I don't know much about Vedic astrology, but I do feel from what I hear, it's very, like you said, it's very about the rules, and it's very about like from this day until that day. Where was your astrologer
when you were building this?
Right, yeah, and so it's a little too intense for me because we have free will as humans. We come here to have free will. There's other places where we don't have this kind of choice.
Right.
So that's part of our journey. Yeah. To wear this, like jacket and embody it and use it the way we want to. So. Not every Scorpio is the same. Not every Taurus is the same. There's tendencies for sure.
Exactly.
And it makes me laugh when I'm like, oh my God, you're such a Aries. You're such a Gemini, right?
Right.
For sure, we have those, but like there's so much beyond that as well.
Right. And we can have, moments in our lives that we act like the other things. We're being ruled by them or picking up things from our friends or from our parents. Like, so if your parents are certain signs, do you tend to pick up tendencies of those signs or no?
Well, I think we learn so much about our behavior from our parents. Mm-hmm. So that's why the chart is one layer, and then we have our nurturing, right, and our parenting. That plays a huge factor into, are we going to use this energy for good, or is it going to kick us in the ass, right? So there's so many things. Astrology is not like it has to be this way and then everything else is wrong. It is like this is a huge component of it. It shows actually your highest expression, because a lot of times we get our programming from our parents that are unhealthy. And so that's why I work with clients and do healing to really have them clear out the programming that's false. But the birth chart shows, okay, this is the highest expression of how to use this. If you weren't thinking that you're so fat, if you weren't thinking you were a failure, if you didn't hear this your whole life, like this is the expression, right, that's here. So that's why it's so beautiful as well.
And are there any like techniques or tools that you use for clearing out the old stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. We do a lot of heart work, getting into the heart, and also do visualization and clearing. So I have them, to pull out their inner child, visualize stuff. We talk them through getting information from spirit, like this is the old limited belief. And we visualize clearing this out and then replacing it with new energy. And because everything is energy at the end of the day. So if they can actually move energy, which I'm helping assist, we change everything. Everything is energy. It's a vibration, and everything sits in our energy field. All our old beliefs are sitting in our energy field. So all I'm doing is helping you clear out your energy field so that you can shine.
Right.
You know?
And can your chart say like how many past lives you've had or how many times you've been here?
I can't see that in a chart. No, but there are some limitations, I will say, in the chart. What I can see is the most recent and what we're dealing with right now. But also, like we talked about before, there's parallel lives, there's different realities. So, like, who knows if this is actually a past life or a reality that's going on right now somewhere else? Because we're fragments of our soul. Our soul is split up in
Yeah, so when you say parallel life, that means a part of my soul could be in another person's body who's going through that trauma.
Yeah.
And I'm just feeling it.
Yep, absolutely, and we're all connected. Yeah, I feel like there's hundreds of possibilities and hundreds of scenarios and different realms and different realities, and it's so hard for our mind to grasp.
Right.
The only thing I know is that what came to me one day is I'm like, wait a minute, okay, I do believe in past lives. However, it can't just be like, okay, we're living, then we die, something happens in between, and then we come back. Because that's very linear.
Right.
And it hit me. I'm like, wait a minute, but nothing is linear because time doesn't exist and it's cyclical.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I believe at some degree of the past lives, but it's probably happening at the same time.
Right.
Right? Like our souls
Well,
could
the
be together
shamanic perspective is like all the lives are happening right
yeah.
now. Yeah.
Right. Our souls are probably together in going through the desert in Morocco in the harem that we were in, right? Well, we do have a past life connection we talked about.
So can we see where we were in that past life, or we just know because of our planets are at the same place at the same time?
The same place at the same time. It would have to be psychic information coming through.
Okay.
But your south node, which is past, and the moon is connected to our past. Okay. It takes in all the memories. Ours are conjunct, meaning they're touching. So right away, there's a connection to that.
Yeah, because people say like you have like a soul fam, like you have like your friends, but there's people that are like your soul fam. So do you think these are actually people who you knew before?
Absolutely.
So interesting.
Yeah. And then we have, I like to call them the heavy hitters, where those karmic people that come in and they just rock our world. And sometimes it's amazing, like the best sex of your life, right? And then sometimes it's like you're on the floor crying in tears because they like broke your heart. Sometimes it happens both together.
Yeah.
But, those are the heavy hitters, and those are the agreements that we had because they're helping us move along our path, right? But what we do with it, like, it doesn't always have to be torturous, but sometimes we choose because that's the choice that we're making, It gets complicated.
Oh, for sure. I definitely believe in the soul contracts and how they come into our lives for a reason.
Well, you and Stephen, like you guys already agreed. You have a soul contract.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I know that I was a flamenco dancer and he was the guitarist, and we used to perform on the streets of Spain. And
I have a story about that. That's funny that you
and
that.
different lives that we've had together of like, and it's so interesting because when we first started dating, like he plays 5 instruments and he's never taken a music class in his life, and he would just play music and I would just dance like in his room for hours.
You've done this before.
Yeah,
that is so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's funny that you said that because my friend is super psychic. She doesn't know she is, but she has these crazy dreams all the time. And she sends me a text, like, I don't know, maybe a couple months ago. You were in my dream again, and you were getting married, and you were wearing a flamenco outfit. And I was that's why I'm like, I feel like it was past life
it was
stuff.
like in the caves of Granada.
Yeah.
Which is also Moroccan influence.
And I have Spanish background. My grandfather spoke fluent Spanish.
Y queremos hablar en español juntos.
Yeah, I know. I'm still working on mine. Estoy aprendiendo español. It's no bueno.
It'll come back.
I'm trying here. This is the only language I can speak right now, astrology.
Well, it's an amazing one. And the last thing I want to know about is like, do you believe in soulmates and twin flames? What's your view on that whole thing?
How much time do we have for this? Because that could be a whole other episode.
Yeah.
Yes, but my view is very different than what most is out there. And I actually studied with someone about twin flames many, many years ago. I remember the course was like $500 with one-on-one, and this is when I had no money when I started my job, and it was the biggest stretch for me to spend $500. And I'm like, I was eating ramen. But I'm like, I need to take this twin flame class with her. Like, it was like, because it was values. Like, I value this stuff. Anyways, so, and over the years I've learned and connecting with spirit. So yes, I believe in that. I think we have many soulmates. It's not just romantic. It could be mom, dad, sister, anyone. They're souls that move you on your journey. So I don't necessarily believe we always marry our soulmates. So I used to pray, please God, I want to meet my soulmate and marry him. Okay, well, I don't actually say that anymore because I've met my soulmates. And let me tell you, it hasn't always been pretty. They answered. They're like, okay, you want your soulmates? Here you go. And they have been the most excruciating, painful, intense relationships ever. So I believe there's many. And I believe we also have partners. And I believe sometimes you could absolutely marry your soulmates too, but those are the contracts you made out. Now, twin flames, I think, okay, most people think they found their twin flame. This is on a whole other level. Twin flame, you could have like the most karmic relationship and be soulmate and be beautiful. And that's fine, but it doesn't have to be twin flame. I think we just say that for our egos.
So what is twin flame?
So twin flame is,
because everyone has a different one.
Twin flame is two people that are actually from like the same egg. It's the masculine, feminine split off. Okay, they are the same. It is home. It is your twin. It is your mirror. So what happens is you usually meet them, and it's super intense. But then what happens is there's so much between the two of you. And also, when you meet your twin flame, it means you have to resolve and clear all your shit. Now, everyone wants to meet their twin flame, but people are not willing to clear their shit. So what happens is it brings up your biggest nightmares, your biggest fears, the craziest stuff that you will do anything to avoid. It will be smacked in your face. And so what happens then, there's usually a separation and people go one way, you go one way, they go one way, and you're dealing with this. And so it could be years and years and years. And sometimes you meet up again, but then you usually split. And usually one person runs because they are too afraid. They are too scared. And it's too intense. And so there's always a runner, there's always a chaser.
That's if you're not ready.
Yeah, and you're not ready. Like, you cannot be with your twin flame right off the bat, because to be with your twin flame, you have to literally heal and clear and shed all your shadow shit, everything that people. So I was then, praying for my twin flame, and let me tell you, I think that I might have met a twin flame. They're obviously not in the picture now because that's what happens.
So is there only one twin flame?
Yes, there's only one twin flame. Now, not everyone in this lifetime is going to meet that. I don't know if that is for sure. I have speculations because of my soul journey and what's been going on. And I know that I just know I wouldn't have incarnated any other way. I'm like, give me the big bucks or nothing else. Like, that's just my expression. So I'm like, let's just like dive in and like do it all, like Scorpio energy, because I have that too. Or nothing at all. Like, that's just my personality. So, but anyways, you eventually come back together and it's a reunion, but that's not after the deepest soul healing, gut wrenching experience. And then eventually it is beautiful and it is blissful. And then I believe that twin flames are there to work together because they're actually there to raise humanity together.
Right.
So here's the thing. You can be in love with your soulmate, anyone can, and it be the most amazing electric relationship of your life. That doesn't mean it's twin flame, but the thing is, who cares? It's only ego stuff. Who cares? Because not every incarnation you meet your twin flame. There's just things where I feel like I came back to do that. This lifetime is a do-over for me. When I was little, I used to say to my mom, I want to be a twin. I want to be a twin. Where's my twin? I had a twin. And I even asked my mom, was I a twin and something happened? And she's like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. So there's stuff, but that's also, I'm turning 40. I'm still single. It's not an easy path. I'm fine with that, with my Aries energy, but it's not, if you just want the cookie cutter life and get married, have the kids.
Because you're set on finding your twin flame.
It's not even set. I can't go against what my soul already knows. So do you know what I'm saying? Like, I can go out and date, but these people aren't the one, and I know that. So it's like I still have fun and meet people, but like my soul knows what it knows. So you cannot ignore what it knows. So that actually is difficult.
So do you think it's someone that you have met before and had a breakup with?
Yeah. Yeah. But it might not. That could have just been a super intense soulmate. So we'll see. Like, that's the thing is, I'm not sitting here saying I know everything and, I'm so mighty, I met my twin flame. I don't know. I have suspicion.
Right.
But, and because of all of the deep shit that I've been through, right? And healing work, but I don't know. And at the end of the day, Spirit knows I say partner now. I'm not even saying soulmate or twin flame. I don't even want to use those words anymore.
Right.
Just that right man
Whatever
for me
it is, yeah.
that I'm going to be super happy with, and he's going to be super happy with me, and just we're going to be in bliss.
Yes.
I say partner now.
Yes.
I don't even say those words because I said it all, and it's like, be careful what you wish for.
Right.
You know? So, again, I'm not trying to sound like almighty, but I think people misuse that term twin flame. They don't really understand.
Yeah.
But it's okay. You could have the most amazing love affair of your life with a soulmate or with someone.
Can you see in your
know?
chart if that person's your twin flame?
See if that person.
Yeah, like pulling up two people. Can you see if they were twin flames or soulmates? Or
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely things you can see because you can see connections. And so you can see more soulmates. You know, twin flame, no, that's more on a soul level. So that would have to come in just from the heart because a twin flame is the deepest heart connection. Like your hearts are connected. So time, space, like it doesn't matter. Sometimes it's like 20 years before people come back together, right?
Right.
But your hearts are connected because you are home.
Yeah.
You're one. You're there. So, but listen, like I'm totally cool with just like someone that's really makes me laugh and we have great sex and we heal the world. Like, let's go.
Right.
Like, I don't care I don't need a title to what it is.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'm so curious because from what I had heard before, it was like we have multiple soulmates in our lives who are there to teach us lessons. Good, bad, can be anything. And then that twin flame is the Shiva Shakti, feminine, masculine balance. But from my understanding, it wasn't as rare as what you're speaking of, that it seems like most people don't. Because I'm wondering with Steven, like the moment I met him, it felt like home. Like that's always what we said. It was like literally like home. And like we just stared into each other's eyes for like 2 hours without talking. And it was like literally like I was like reading a story of my soul that I
because you guys
that I
know
was
each
rereading.
other.
And we joke, we were like, our brains were like,
I could, like,
it was
see
like
that.
recalibrating. And like wherever he is, it's like, I'm home.
Yeah.
But it's never been like he's taught me like a lesson, or it's been easy. It's been a very easy. We don't fight at all.
But that's beautiful. And maybe you had fighting stuff before, and that's what your soul is like. I want this peace now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you don't have to fight. It's not the fighting with the twin flames wasn't so much each other. It was more that you have to go through your own shit. You know?
Yeah, like I don't think he's ever brought up my shit. Like he's always been supportive. I could be going through my own. He's the supportive guy. Yeah. So that's why I'm like, okay, then maybe that's a soulmate.
And that's
I don't know.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And as long as you're happy, like it doesn't, all these titles don't matter about anything. Really, at the end of the day, they don't. It's just how you feel.
Exactly.
Like to have what you feel, great. Call it anything you want. Anyone.
Exactly.
Let's all have what she's having. We'll have more of that, please. Like that's what we all want.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like we get too caught up because that's like us as humans, like labeling stuff when really you just listen to your heart.
But before I did say, and I told you this, I drew a picture of the guy I was looking for, and I told the universe, like, I don't care if I'm 7 years old until I meet this person.
It's powerful.
Only send me this person. Like I am so cool with being single until then. And then it happened like a month later. So then I wonder, well, was that like that twin flame, or
it was also the right time.
The right time.
You know, timing is everything, and timing is astrological,
I think it's
but
so
as well
important in
as
love.
our soul.
Yeah.
Like you were aligned exactly where you needed to be. So it's timing of everything.
Yeah, but now looking back on it, when I was looking at that point, like if this relationship hadn't happened, I wouldn't be here in LA. I was going to go to Ecuador. Right. Like, who knows? I would have been a shaman by now.
Right. That's why it
my
changes
life would
everything.
have taken a different path.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because it's like with that meeting, I mean, it was like.
But that's also why you met him so soon, because I think the universe was like, no.
Because I was about to be
redirecting
bye,
you.
everyone.
Yeah.
I'm off.
And the universe knows when you're serious. Because I've tried to joke the universe before and be like, okay, I'm done with something. And it's like nothing.
Yeah,
until I'm
looking at the window.
Until I'm on my knees crying and begging, then the universe steps. Okay, now she's serious. We got to step this up for her.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I feel like it was like this like anchoring down.
Absolutely.
That like if it wasn't for this, who knows where I would have gone. And then that also could have created a lot of issues with my family and this and that. So having him just was like an anchor, and then I could actually get much deeper in my work. Because you know when you're always traveling, as you've always done, you're just going through so much. You're like, where do I sleep and where do I eat and this and that? It's like you're getting to deeper places, but you're not working, It's
I don't work as
inner,
much when I
it's inner
travel.
work.
It's inner work.
Yeah.
Which I love. And I'm like, I could do that the rest of my
Right.
life.
But it would have been very, very hard to really write a book and do all of the things if I was just still moving around all the time.
Yeah.
So, I think it sends us the people that we need
at the exact time.
Yeah.
That's the thing is we think.
Are there any love spells that we can do for people who are looking for it?
I don't do love spells because
Okay.
I don't like to mess with that kind of energy.
Okay.
Like if you want to do any kind of love spell, it's open your heart. And you will magnetize everyone to you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only love spell I do is
Love
open your
that.
own heart. But I don't like to control other people like that. It's not good. It's not healthy.
Exactly.
I don't do any of that stuff. So I definitely have in the past, like past lives. For
Right.
sure, there's no question. But I also know that that's why my psychic gifts have been opening slowly because I misused them a lot.
Right.
So in the past, not this lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
But so I'm very careful. I don't do any of that stuff, and I'm very conscious about what I tell people and how I tell people.
I love that. And the love that you receive is the love that you give yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Amazing. Wow. We learned so much. So where can listeners connect with you, find you, get a reading from you,
Absolutely.
learn from you?
On my website at healingpaige.com, and again, it's Paige. You also follow me on Instagram at healingpaige, and I'm on Facebook under. Actually my Facebook group would be the best place. It's called Social Society, so SOULCIAL, Social Society.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you so much. It's been so fun.
Yay,
I
I
love
know.
this. I could talk all night.
I know. Sad to leave. Namaste. Wow. Are you blown away or is it just me? What? Oh my God. How did we not know about this in school? How is this not on front page news? I think everyone needs to know their chart. It's so empowering. And oh my God, I really feel like I just reacquainted myself with a lost part of my soul. And honestly, since I've had that little session with her, my life has drastically changed because I'm getting in touch with parts of myself that I kind of never thought about. And then other parts of myself that I shut away, I'm reclaiming it. So go get your charts read, know about your soul, and leave a review for this podcast on the iTunes store. And I will email you the first half of my unreleased book, Eat Right for Your Mind Body Type. So send that review over to Sahara, Sahara, at eatfeelfresh.com. And I will send you over the first half of my unreleased book. And let's take this conversation further. Let's chat about it. I want to know what's in your chart. On the Mind Body Balancers Facebook group. All you got to do is go on Facebook, type in Mind Body Balancers. I'll accept you to the group and you'll meet thousands of other cool ass people who are into this sort of stuff. And we'll talk all about channeling and our sun signs and all of these cool things that most people are unfortunately not acquainted with yet, but we'll be the ones who will spread this knowledge. So thank you guys so much for listening. Namaste, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you.